What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is Mr. Madrid from the Mr. Madrid Show. And today we are going to be talking about a post that I recently put on social media. I put it on Instagram, I believe. And it's a question that I had for the audience that was looking at the video. And it's, ever feel like you're behind in life? Like the timelines that we have in our head, we think we're supposed to be at a certain place at a certain time in life. And I just think that that creates a lot of unnecessary pressure, right? And I think along with that also comes having faith and knowing that you are where you need to be at that given moment because that's where God has placed you. Now, this is not going to be an episode based on religion. It's really going to be an open conversation with you, the viewers, right? Based on conversations that I've had with friends, family, and even people on social media that have commented on the video that I posted up where I'm basically saying like you got to give yourself some grace, right? You got to be kind to yourself. Like that was the overall revolving theme of that 1 minute clip, right? Once upon a time, not too long ago, I was talking to one of my friends and they told me they're like, you're very mean to yourself and you should really try to be kinder to yourself. And I didn't understand that until now. Life has changed for me in the sense of the plan that I had, right? At this place in time, starting in 2026, where I thought I would be versus where I am right now is just two different places. And, they always talk about like, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, touche, touche. But it's all an illusion. We set these like milestones for ourselves, and then we have social media that like forces us sometimes to compare our journeys with one another. And at the end of the day, like life isn't linear. It's not a narrow path. It has a lot of detours. It has a lot of forks in the road where, you're driving down this road and you think you're going to go straight and it just gives you two different options, sometimes three, sometimes four. And ultimately, I said it was going to be a religious podcast episode, but ultimately my belief in God is what allows me to be at peace with the decisions that I make when it comes to those forks in the road where I can go left or I can go right. And typically, because I'm the type of person that feels like they can just do anything, I come to a point where I'm just like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. And I think about it and I overthink it. And then I start thinking about, how somebody else would handle it. Who can I call to kind of get some, advice or anything, something that would take me further in my thought process. And ultimately, what I think it is, like I said, is being in your faith, having prayer, having God in your life, and being able to really just talk to the man upstairs and let him know what your plans are. Let him know that, it's all because of him ultimately. And I apologize for those that aren't really into that, but I hope those that are, I'm speaking directly to you, right? That I'm speaking your language. And ultimately, we are where we need to be. And it's okay if we have some detours that come here and like some monkey wrenches that get thrown at us. And I think a lot of it is all something that you're going to eventually use as a testimonial to help somebody else. Like these hurdles that we come across, these obstacles that we face, these forks in the road that we come across. I think it all serves a purpose for you to one day be a helping hand, for you to be that voice that speaks to somebody else, to encourage them and let them know like, hey, I've been down a path similar to this one. Or, hey, let me give you my 2 cents on a similar experience that I've had that might bring you some light. And there's always light at the end of the tunnel, ladies and gentlemen. Even if it seems like a very far tunnel, there is light at the end of the tunnel. With these unexpected turns, we build thick skin. And what I mean by that is I'm not the same person I was when I was 21 years old. I'm 38 now, going on 39, 2 kids, wife, 2 dogs, the works, right? The quote unquote American dream as close as I can possibly be towards it right now. And when I was 21, I was very naive. I was a young kid. And when life would smack me in the mouth, or as Gary Vee says, punch me in the mouth, I really didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know which direction to go in. So it could have been anything. It could have been something as losing my job. I would go into a funk, go through depression. I would shut the world out. Whereas now at 38 years old, I was laid off recently and The only option that I had was to find a way to land back on my feet, right? And by the grace of God, I was put into a good situation. Even though I was laid off, I still had the opportunity to make ends meet. And I think for a lot of folks, this is something that I hope resonates with you guys, where when I talk about having light at the end of the tunnel, you have to stay in the game, right? Even if it's the third quarter, your corns are hurting you, you know what I mean? You're completely out of gas, you're thirsty, you're this, that, the next. It's like if you are part of a team, and my team is team family, people rely on you and people look up to you. How you do anything is how you do everything. And I think that builds character. And if you're somebody that typically gives up on yourself, the people around you know that about you. There's no sugarcoating it. And if you've been around those same type of people from day one and they haven't helped you elevate, and of course you have to help yourself first. You have to wonder what's going on with that circle. Like misery loves company. And what I would say too is losing your job isn't a walk in the park. I'll put it to you that way. It's the monkey wrench that I was talking about, where even at 38 years old, I find myself in the crossroads of, instead of going into the depression that I would have gotten into at 21, I'm looking at the world like it's my oyster. I can do anything I want, right? I have some time to kill. I have some time to experiment with different things, all while also interviewing for my next career move, right? Like that can't stop because you have mouths to feed, you have mortgage to pay, you have car note, like all these different things that still need to keep going and to keep moving forward, spoiling the wife and the kids and buying myself my gadgets that I love to buy myself. But ultimately, not giving up on yourself and knowing that although you're faced with a bad situation, there is a lesson to be learned from that bad situation. And it's up to you to really uncover that and really sit down and take that in and breathe a little bit. Give yourself that grace that I spoke about in that 16-second clip that I put up, right? A lot of times, like I mentioned before, we don't give ourselves our grace. We have such high expectations of ourselves that actually gets in the way of us progressing, like us stopping to feel like we're not enough, or like the moves that we're making are not enough, or just constantly over preparing for life. You know what I mean? Like, I'll give you an example. Once upon a time, I wanted to shoot videos, and this is when like the iPhone 7 was out, so that's years ago. But ultimately, the cameras on the phones weren't all that great back then. But I had means of getting videos done. Wasn't the greatest camera in the world. But then I was like, oh, I can't do anything unless I have this. I think it was a Canon Rebel, right? Can't do anything. I don't want to do anything under 1080p. 4K wasn't really a thing back then. I was like, I'm not, I can't. I'm disabled basically. Then I got the camera, and then it was the next thing. Okay, I have the camera. Now I need the tripod, and now I have the tripod. Now I need lighting. Like, it's always going to be something that you need in order to do the thing. If you allow that to happen, you're never going to do that thing. You really have to just jump, take that leap of faith, and learn on the way there. And this is something that I've spoken about plenty of times on the podcast, but I just feel like it applies. And a lot of times, like the things that I'm talking about, I'm really talking to myself, right? And in hopes that it strikes a nerve in someone else, or like it inspires somebody else to say, you know what? I'm not going to continue down this rabbit hole of like continuing to add more and more to my plate, because I still need more to start the project or the task that you want to complete. You just got to go for it, man. Because a lot of times you'll figure it out. And like specifically in the content creation world, I'm not gonna lie, like I love gadgets, and I started with the Sony ZV-10, and then I was like, I need the DJI Pocket because it's a better vlogging video camera. And then I wanted the DJI 360 because I wanted those cool little clips of me recording myself. Like, it goes on and on. If you nurture that side of yourself, and it's good to nurture it. It's okay to spoil yourself and get things, but as long as you use those tools and resources to the best of their ability or your ability. But if you're saying like, hey, I can't shoot a video because I don't have the right microphone. I can't shoot a video because I don't have the best camera. I can't shoot. No, bro. Pick up that camera and start shooting. And I'm being a hypocrite. I'm just gonna call myself out on it. I didn't want to do anything until I had this Sony. I got the Sony, and then I started making moves. And then that within itself created pressure for me because I'm like, all right, that's enough, Anthony. You got the Sony, and I got a couple other gadgets, but I got to shoot. I have everything that I need to create content and everything that I ever wanted to create content. Obviously, there's new stuff here and there, but don't let that derail you from getting after it, from getting after the things, your dreams, the things that you want to do and want to accomplish. With that said, there's a lot of, and within that too, there's a lot of mental wars internally that go on where, it's the self-doubt, it's the comparisons, the silent pressure, and us talking to ourselves that really hinders us more than anything. And that's where the being kind to yourself comes into play, where giving yourself grace to know that everything is going to be okay, that you're not going to give up on yourself because you're an amazing person and you have the will and drive to get after it by any means necessary. And that's the important thing. That's when you tell doubt to kiss your ass. That's when you tell doubt to kiss your ass. But it first starts by you admitting to yourself the things that you're allowing to hold you back. And once you admit those things to yourself and you're real with yourself, like you can lie to anybody. You can lie to anybody that you want to lie to. The one person you can't lie to is yourself, without a doubt. Be kind to yourself, but don't let you feed yourself bullshit. Like we're trying to be the greatest versions of ourselves out here and still have the humility, still be vulnerable, but still be a badass at the same time. And those are difficult things to juggle. But I think with that comes grace and discipline. We spoke about grace, we spoke about being kind to yourself, but the discipline portion of it is where I've failed. And I feel like a lot of folks have failed, where you really are not going to get to the places that you want to be without being disciplined, plain and simple. And the thing about discipline is it's not always visible. And for some reason, I always choose to compare this to exercising. And 9 out of 10 times I talk about abs. Never had abs in my life, but I've heard about them. I've heard about these abs out there. One day I'll go to the store and pick a pair up or a 6-pack. Yeah, that joke. But it's like when you first start going to the gym, either your goal is to lose weight or to get a 6-pack, it's not always going to be visible for you to see the progress, but there's a lot of layers under that where you're building a foundation. And that's the most important thing in anything that you're building, is the foundation. It's just like when you're building a home, you need that concrete slab to make sure that everything is level, that the structure is solid. And that's where I would say I've been weak at often, is the discipline portion. I've always been the type of person that loves structure, but I'm always going to be human. And I learned a lot in my previous job, and a lot of it had to do with being a leader, leading people, and setting the tone. And I think in being a leader of my household, it's the same thing, where I have to be disciplined. I have the little people in my house that are looking up to me, looking up to my wife. My wife looks to me for guidance, and I do too to her. Like where it's a partnership. But as a man of the house, there is pressure that comes with that. And I think with discipline and structure, you can reach the goal and the end goal of what you're trying to get to. And if you're like me, the goal line is constantly moving, right? And it could be for reasons that are out of our control, such as losing your job, being laid off, or it could happen because now the goal has changed and I want more than what I thought I wanted. And that's okay, right? That's why you game plan. And it's good that if you're in a relationship, you guys are both together as a team and share some of those same goals. You can have individual goals, but as a family, that structure, that foundation, you want to set out on those things together. Everybody on the same page. The other thing that I'll talk about is like perspective, right? The perspective that I spoke about early on in this episode, where we feel like we have to be in a certain place at a certain time because either we think that's what it's supposed to be or society is telling us that that's what it's supposed to be. And really, you must always do what's right for you at that point in time. I had a leadership role. My last position at my previous job was a leadership role. And in talking to some people about being a leader, going back to be a leader, going into being an individual contributor where I'm solely just focused on my stuff and I don't have to worry about leading a whole team. It's been like an ongoing conversation of based on my age, I should be here. I should be there. And in realizing everything, the one thing that I realize is like I'm setting these false narratives for myself based on what I think I'm supposed to be doing because of the age that I am. Where ultimately the tone should be set at what is this that I enjoy doing? What are the things that I'm doing outside of my 9 to 5? What are my plans? What are my goals? What are my businesses doing? Right. And there's nothing wrong with leading people, but I'm just saying because sometimes I feel like conversations that I recently had where I share kind of the same sentiment as somebody else, where it's like, oh, I'm 38, I'm pushing 40. I should be so much further down the road than I am now. I should be like, a VP of a department, something crazy. But who says you have to be that? I saw like a conversation that 50 Cent had where he was talking about how somebody who works a 9 to 5 and makes 60, 70,000 a year is rich because of the way they handle their finances, their career, and the way that they think. And that's why a lot of times some people say like, I may not be rich in the bank, like financially, but my mind and the life that I have, I'm rich in happiness. And that right there is the key. And I get it. We all have to make ends meet. So I'm not telling you to take a bullshit job because it's what I'm saying is having the grace to say, I need to do what's best for me and my family, if you have a family, and what's going to feed your soul, really. Because ultimately, like, we can all do things for money, and ultimately, we're not going to be happy because if it's not feeding, like, almost like that inner child in you, you're never going to be happy. For me, podcasting is something I really enjoy. I really love. Business, owning my own business is something that I love and I really enjoy. So those are the things that feed me outside of my 9 to 5, outside of that character is those things. That's real life. Being with my family, having extra time to spend with my kids, either in the morning or later in the evening. That to me is priceless. So you have to think for yourself on what's the best thing for you. Fuck what society thinks about where you should be, or you should have kids at 25, you should be married by 30, and you should own a house by 30. Like, none of that really matters. What should matter is what you think is best for you. Stop looking at the outside world to validate the things that you have going on or things that you don't have going on. Give yourself some grace. It's going to be okay. God has a plan for all of us. And again, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And by no means am I saying that it's not in your best interest to plan. No, plan things out. But what I'm saying is when you take those plans too seriously and you let yourself crumble when those plans don't happen. You have to learn how to pivot. And it's not a skill that you automatically are born with. With pivoting comes a lot of unexpected changes that you weren't expecting. And sometimes pivoting is because you figured out a better way to do something. And that's all okay. Give yourself some grace. Be kind to yourself. Don't worry about the timeline that society has laid out for you because at the end of the day, nobody really knows what the fuck they're doing. You may think you have your life all figured out years in advance, but the world takes so many turns and we go through so many changes and we grow through so many ups and downs and things that just happen in life, just lifing, that those plans constantly change. You think you're going to do one thing. You think, you're going to go to school, get your bachelor's in a certain field. And then later down the line, you end up doing something that has nothing to do with your degree. And that's okay. And that's part of pivoting. And that's part of life. And that is life, ladies and gentlemen. Things like shit happens. Okay. Shit just happens. And it's not so much the reaction, but I think it's the action that we take from those moments where shit happens and the attitude that we choose to have. Lean on the victim mentality as the action that you choose to have. Stand on your 10 toes and face life as it comes to you. Because life is precious. We get to live it every day if we're fortunate enough. And we are co-writing our lives with God, ultimately. And I say co-writing because, a lot of people believe that it's our journeys are already written. But I think because there's free will, it's a journey that we're writing alongside God and he's guiding us, right? And I compare it similar to my kids where If I see them walking down a path that I have walked down before, and I know for a fact that they're going to stumble across a few things, I'm going to give them guidance. Ultimately, I'm learning as a parent that I have to allow them to make their own mistakes, but that's why I'm here. That's why my wife is here, to guide them and to ensure that they're safe and that they have counsel when it comes to mom and dad. And I'll close with this, ladies and gentlemen. If you feel like you're behind in life, you're not alone. You may be in the middle of your story, in the middle of your journey. And I've seen it so much where it's like right when you're about to give up is right when you were about to make it. So don't give up on yourself. I won't give up on myself. I'll continue to root for you. I'll continue to root for myself. I'll continue to bob and weave and pivot and continue to try my best because, I'm human, to have a positive outlook on every step that I take in life. And negative things will happen, but it's not the reaction that matters, is the action that we take afterwards. I'll leave you with that. Peace and love.